What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of VCC Live. This is episode 31, where the UK says e-cigs are safer than smoking. Yeah, we knew that, but it's good to see some long-term studies coming out to let us know that we were right. Dripping, we're going to talk about dripping tonight because it's been in the news lately. Death and taxes. Yeah, those two things are certain, especially in Massachusetts. And we're going to see a lot of it more this year, but Jay's going to tell us about what's coming up in Massachusetts. And we just found this out, 10 minutes ago, so we decided to add it. ProVape, the maker of the ProVape, is closed. We put a question mark because we're not sure. We're just going based off of information on their website. So, let's get right into it. We'll do a quick, as you can see, by the way, Nick is not with us tonight. I'm not really sure why. He just at the last minute said, hey, forgot I can't make it. So apologies from Nick, but hopefully he'll be back next week. We're just rotating chairs with Nick and Matt.
So, am I the only reliable one here?
That's cool.
Last minute thing's usually a diarrhea issue or something.
Are you spinning? Is that a spinner?
Yeah.
I don't have one of those yet. I need to get one.
I had really thought these things were stupid, and then I got a few, and they're actually kind of addicting. If you like to fidget with crap.
I do vape. That's what I fidget with. Maybe that'll be a vape less, though. I don't know. Jay, what's up? How are things? How are things been this week for you?
Been a crazy week. We found out, thanks to Dimitri, we found out fairly early on about a new bill coming through Mass. It was literally, I think, the morning after I said on last week's show that the chair of the Public Health Committee in the House of Representatives in Massachusetts looked me dead in the eye and said, we're not going after taxing e-cigs. The next morning, I got a ping from Dimitri saying, hey, they're going to tax e-cigs. And he sent me the link to the bill. We've been running around ragged in Mass, trying to get folks together, vendors, manufacturers together in Mass and outside Mass, to see if we can organize and try to fight this bad boy. Very
cool. Well, we'll talk more about that in a little bit. You can tell us a little bit more about the bill details and what all it encompasses. Matt, how are you? How are things? We missed you last week. You've been busy.
Doing okay. Yeah, last week was nuts. Been kind of under the weather this week. Here in Montana, they did just kill the indoor vaping bill that they were trying to pass, so that's good. There's still a tax bill that's that they're trying to push through. I don't think it has. It's Democrats that are trying to do it, and there's not many of them in the House here, so I don't think it's going to happen. So I think we're safe in Montana, at least for now.
Well, I mean, that's some positive news. When is their session? Do you know when it starts?
In Montana. It started already.
Oh, it started already. Okay.
I mean, they've already had like committee hearings and stuff
cool.
on a few of these.
By the way, I'm digging that shirt, Jay. That's my CCI Vape I Vote shirt.
Well, I thought you were digging my Mario shirt.
I figured, my Pats won, so I didn't have to pull out the Falcons backdrop as I promised last week. Mm-hmm. So I figured I'd mix it up and say, hey, I like Kevin too.
And oh, what a win it was!
Oh my God, it was amazing.
What a comeback that was! Fantastic, absolutely incredible. And as we were talking about before the show, very, very poor coaching by the Falcons in the second half. But anyway, that's not why we're here. For everyone who's watching now, don't forget to smash that like button real quick. I'm going to remind you to do that a couple times throughout. And if you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do that before we're over. And we'll have the replay link up either tonight or tomorrow on the VCC Live Facebook page. So make sure you share that, please, when it's available. Welcome to everyone here. We appreciate you guys tuning in. If you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll be sure to check that every so often. So, the first thing that we are going to talk about tonight is this study from the UK. I don't know if everyone has seen this yet or not, but it was on ITV Good Morning Britain, I think on Monday. And they have a doctor on there, Dr. Hillary something. Can't remember his last name, even though I wrote an article on it. But I'll show you guys really quickly here. We're going to play this in its entirety. It's only 3 minutes long, but I want everyone to see this because it's a really good news story and covering a study that vapors have been saying for years at this point. I mean, honestly, we've been saying while vaping is not perfect, it is definitely a safer alternative to combustible tobacco. And then Public Health England came out with their study in late 2015, and then the Royal College of Physicians came out with their report in late 2015. And ironically enough, this study was funded by, it was what's called a cross-sectional study, and it was primarily funded by Cancer Research UK, and it was published by the American College of Physicians in the Annals of Internal Medicine. So that's pretty cool. I think that we now have a report from the Royal College of Physicians, and then we have this now published in the American College of Physicians. So I'm just curious how much more of this we're going to have to, keep going through before the FDA and politicians in the U.S. take us seriously. But let's pop over real quick to the right monitor, or the full monitor. I don't have a right monitor at home, but the full monitor, and I'll play this. I know you guys can't hear it, Jay and Matt, but hopefully you've seen it already.
Now, 2 million people use them. They are the subject of much debate. A new report this morning, scientists are hailing e-cigarettes to be far safer than normal cigarettes.
Yeah, it's believed they can also help smokers curb their cravings and, in fact, kick the habit altogether. Charlotte, you've got more details.
I have, yeah, because there's been a bit of confusion about this. Unlike previous surveys, this new study looked at the actual levels of nicotine and harmful substances in the body after smoking. Now, the problem with normal cigarettes is that they release addictive nicotine, but also that smoke carries tar and poisonous chemicals into the lungs, and it can cause cancer. E-cigarettes use a liquid containing nicotine and flavourings. Because they don't have any of the toxic elements of normal cigarettes, today's new study shows that users had 97% fewer cancerous chemicals in their body. And the researchers say that they hope their findings will reassure those people who want to quit, but might have been confused by the mixed messages they've heard so far about the safety of e-cigarettes.
Dr. Hillary joins us now. So they are safer, but are they a gateway to cigarettes? That's the big concern amongst particularly parents whose, teenagers might.
They may be. It's fueling that habit of having something in the hand, socially attractive to children who might think this is something to be emulated and copied. However, for those people who are already smoking, and there are 10 million smokers in the UK, this is really good news. This was a long-term study carried out independently at UCL in London, Cancer Research UK funded research, which measured levels of these toxins and carcinogens in saliva and urine of long-term smokers. And they found out that levels were very, very low indeed after 6 months of using just e-cigarettes or nicotine replacement compared to smoking tobacco. Now that's really good news, because it's even better news than we had from simulated experiments in the past that suggested that e-cigarettes were much safer than smoking tobacco. This confirms it, and because these e-cigarettes contain nicotine, it means that people can get rid of their cravings and give up smoking this way.
It all sounds very positive, Hillary, but you're a doctor yourself. I'm sure you're not going to say, absolutely, we advocate e-cigarettes. There is a downfall.
The best thing to do is never smoke at all, never smoke anything. But if someone's already smoking and finding it difficult to quit, then nicotine replacement therapy or e-cigarettes is the most popular method of quitting. But the interesting thing coming out of this survey was that if you continue to smoke some tobacco cigarettes whilst trying to do the transfer to e-cigarettes, the effect is not nearly as useful. So you've got to give up the tobacco to move to e-cigarettes if you want the benefits.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Hillary, thanks very much indeed.
All right, so that was the report, and then I wrote something on the current news section for Breathe Magazine, so you can find this at breathemagazine.com, BRETH magazine.com. Despite FDA deeming regulations, evidence continues to mount in favor of vaping. And it just kind of recaps the story, and then I put some information here about the FDA and how they continue in the face of mounting evidence to regulate basically the industry in the United States out of existence. So I'll come back over to us, and have you guys seen that video yet?
I have not.
I'll post a link and you can check it out in the Skype chat later on. But it's very good Excuse me for coughing there at you guys. A very good report on this new study that came out of the UK. So, have you seen it, Matt?
Yeah, I saw. Well, I was doing something else, while I was watching it, but I got the gist of it.
Okay. So basically, what they're saying is, in this study, they did a long-term study with urine and saliva from smokers and vapors, and they were able to determine that vapor has 97% less cancer-causing agents in it than intoxicants than does tobacco smoke. So yeah, it's pretty compelling long-term study, and this is kind of the information we need to be seeing getting out to the public. So I'm glad ITV put that on there. They tried to throw in their few digs with the teens, doing the gateway thing. I think the doctor did a good job that's on there of dissuading them from that opinion, and also moving the discussion back over to smokers, adult smokers who are dying from inhaling combustible tobacco smoke. So yeah, overall really good. I'm glad that they did it. And anyone in the chat, did you guys see this or share it? If not, please make sure you share that video. I'll post a link in the description to the replay of this video. Yeah, what do you guys think? What are your thoughts on that? Getting long-term studies out there.
Well, the longer we're around, the more long-term studies are going to be out there. But call me a pessimist, but whoever tends to fund the studies tends to get the answers that they want in those studies. It's obviously good to get positive studies. I tend to find that they're more truthful, but I don't know how biased I am. But usually the news, especially in the States, they're going to glom on to the doom and gloom. If it bleeds, it leads. They're not gonna get all excited about a study that says, "Hey, this isn't harmful." They're only going to get excited if somebody says, "Hey, this will kill you tomorrow."
Yeah, I thought this report though actually did a pretty good job. It was probably 90% positive. There were a few like they said in the chat here.
Yeah, and that happens from time to time. But we'll see if it has any legs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in the UK, vapors are definitely winning the information battle. Well, at least doing a lot better than we are here. But I mean,
exactly.
we're losing big time in the States right now. It's just, even I just got tagged in some post. Maybe you guys did too, like a couple hours ago, and it was like they were showing there was some viral video about vaping or something on Facebook, and just the comments of everyone that isn't a vapor is just almost all negative, And they not only do they think it's horrible for you, but they also just hate it because they think it's douchey. So I mean, we're losing the information battle so far still here, but every piece of positive info obviously helps.
Yeah. I thought it was very well done, like I said, and it was cool to see that that the main funding source was from the Cancer Research UK. I don't think we're going to see the American Cancer Society, for instance, funding any studies to try to.
And that's what my comments were pointing to. Just the fact that all these lobbying groups are bought and paid for here. It's a different world.
Whoever's doing the study basically is trying to get the information that they're looking for, which is why they're funding it.
Right.
But at least in this case, and it was published in, like I said, the American College of Physicians in the Annals of Internal Medicine, which is, I think, is really good. And I hope that the story gets shared. When I first saw the video, it had like 20,000 views, and when I just closed the tab, but I think it was close to 200,000 views, and that was just a couple of days ago. So that particular video got shared quite a bit, and I'm sure that it was shared from the ITV YouTube channel as well. So
I'll be sure to share it out wherever I can.
Yeah, I'm just going to check the chat real quick and see if anyone's saying anything that we needed to address before we move on. Yeah, I agree with you, Rob. The average person is going to hear those words, the cynical words, as opposed to a reasonable discussion about the science being done. That's absolutely, true. You're going to listen to and hear what you want to hear from it. I took the positives from it, but I was listening for the positives from it. So you're absolutely right. I think anyone who's looking for something is going to say, "Oh, what? Teen gateway vaping? They're going to start smoking." They missed completely the point of the story, which is there are 97% less cancer-causing agents and toxicants in it than there are in tobacco smoke. And for adult smokers, that's a good thing. That's a great thing. And we need to get this information out there for sure. Okay, so the next thing that we had to talk about tonight, I don't know if anyone has any more comments on that, but there was, I guess, a couple of stories out this week about dripping, and you guys have probably seen them all shared around. Teen vaping trend can get your child sick quick. This is a story from KTAR News from Arizona. And then CNN has one that says teens use e-cigarettes for, quote, dripping, study says. So let's go over real quick and we'll have a look at those and then we'll talk about them. Let me pop back over to the full monitor. So this is the CNN story. Teens use e-cigarettes for dripping, study says. 1 in 4 teens who vape say they've used e-cigarettes for an alternative technique. An alternative technique? Okay. Known as dripping, new research finds. Dripping produces thicker clouds of vapor, gives a stronger sensation in the throat, and makes flavors taste better, according to a study published Monday in the journal Pediatrics. This study is the first systematic evolution of the use of dripping among teens. What? Says Shutira, right, okay, and I'm going to skip her name, you can see it. Lead author and professor in the Department of Psychiatry at Yale University School of Medicine. She and her colleagues surveyed teens from 8 southeastern Connecticut high schools during the spring of 2015. Though some respondents did not answer all the questions, 1,874 students reported having tried an e-cigarette. More than 26% of those who tried vaping also reported dripping. I guess it doesn't give the total population of people that they questioned, students that they questioned. It just says that 1,874 students reported having tried it. Does that mean that there were 50 or 100,000 students that were questioned? I'm not sure. Being male, being white, having tried more tobacco products, and using e-cigarettes on a greater number of days over the previous month were the traits likely to be associated with dripping. And then it goes on to talk about what dripping is, toxic emissions, revisiting the past. I didn't read this part yet, but you guys can read the full article. I'll post a link in the description. And then we have something similar here. I think they might have actually gotten this idea from CNN. A vaping trend called dripping is a quick way for your teenager to get sick, a Phoenix area doctor said. Dripping is when, instead of using the vape liquid properly, it is instead placed on the e-cigarette's heating coil. This doctor said that resulting vapor is equivalent to inhaling the same amount of nicotine as an entire cigarette in one breath. It can result in your teenager getting very sick very quickly. I'm not going to read the whole thing again, but let's talk about that for a minute or two.
Yeah, where to start? So these are two different news sources reporting on dripping in 2 completely different ways, but they both got, obviously the technology wrong, which is that dripping, first of all, dripping has been around, since vaping has been around, more or less. Yeah. I mean, you guys, Matt, you might remember dripping on a 357.
Yeah, I never had one, but I remember when they were popular.
Yeah. So dripping has been around, and dripping has nothing to do with toxic emissions. The act of dripping itself has nothing to do with toxic emissions. Toxic emissions can result from higher wattage vaping. Has nothing to do with dripping. Could be done in a tank. Could be done however you want to do it.
Could be done in a CE5 clear miser if it's dry.
Exactly. Could be done if you hook a generator up to your views. High wattage is high wattage. That's where toxic emissions can emanate from. Has nothing to do with the practice of dripping.
And it should be said that that's speculated. There's no definitive proof that high wattage vaping is.
Well, I mean, the theory is, and it's broadly understood in the community, that higher wattage vaping can result in the dry puff phenomenon, which burns cotton, burns whatever wicking material you have going on, which can result in some emissions.
Yeah, but again,
sure, it's a logical thing to think, like, if there are some toxins, the warmer you heat it up, the more toxins you could get out of it, if it's happening because of heat anyway.
Right. Rob says that the article references increased heat and formaldehyde. Yes, so probably looking at the Harvard study and rehashing it yet again. But again, that's user error. That is not dripping. If you have a saturated coil and you vape it at high wattage, it's not going to produce the levels that they're talking about.
And generally speaking, if you are actually experiencing the dry puff phenomenon, you're not going to do it again because it chokes you. It's disgusting. It tastes bad. It feels bad. you'll end up coughing your freaking lungs out. So it's not a regular practice.
Well, there was some speculation too. I remember like Farsalinos that not just the dry hits, but just heating some of the ingredients up to, that's kind of what, remember like temp control kind of came out of that.
Right.
Not just the dry hit part of it, but also because the speculation was some of the ingredients in there, if heated up too high, could possibly give off more toxins.
But even the speculated levels were still much lower than smoking.
Correct.
Yeah.
And they're talking about getting as much nicotine from one puff than from a whole cigarette. I don't buy that. Someone in the chat said, "Yeah, well, shit, yeah, if you drip 18 nic."
It's all relevant.
Right. Yeah.
I still don't think that that's possible because I've seen studies that say you would have to use 50 milligrams, per milliliter of e-liquid, 50 milligrams per milliliter e-liquid in order to get equivalent.
Right.
So
it's pure speculation by this doctor who clearly has not done any research. He's just assuming that since they're dripping in clouds brought clouds, they're going to be ingesting more nicotine. But
definitely.
He has done no studies. He has not even examined the existing studies to know whether or not any of that is true.
Yeah, using that it could, you could be one whole pack of cigarettes in one puff is ridiculous. But definitely, it's all relative on how much nicotine what milligram. But I even used 3 milligram on like those crazy super tanks, and God, by the end of a review, I'm feeling kind of sick. So it's definitely possible.
It's higher, but one puff equals one cigarette.
Yeah.
When has that ever been true?
I mean, what do you guys think that again, they're going for the youth factor here. Both of the titles mention teens vaping and the teens use e-cigarettes for dripping, study says. What do you guys what are they trying to accomplish with this?
You know what? If they couched it under the umbrella of, hey, parents, be aware that your 16-year-old might be vaping, that would be fine. But it's never couched that way. It's always, we need to get rid of vaping. We need to tax it. We need to overregulate it. We need to do all these things. It's never just, hey, parents, keep your kids away from the vaping stuff until they're 18.
Well, I'm just going to say, where else a teenager could get as much nicotine from one cigarette? From smoking a cigarette.
Yeah.
So how fucking stupid is that they even bring it up?
It's more fear-mongering. It's fear-mongering by the media. They also probably get coached by government and corporations and stuff. I mean, it's all it is.
Yeah, it's all the same old story.
You could make any story into something super scary.
Right.
That's been going on since I was a kid. I remember my mom would watch news stories and be like, "Oh my God, you can't have Cheetos because it says
broccoli, the new crack cocaine of the produce section."
Yeah, you can always spin something to make it newsworthy.
Yeah. Hey, if the cauliflower lobby is big on fighting big broccoli, I don't know. Move on.
Yeah, I'm just trying. I was looking back at the stories real quick while you guys were talking about broccoli, and and seeing. I mean, I'm even glancing back over them. I don't understand it. I mean, they bring this out about dripping like it's a new scary word.
Right.
I find it funny how the media does stupid shit like this, and dripping's been around, like you said, Jay, probably for several years. People just did it in different iterations.
I think 2010 was probably when people, the Cisco bridgeless atomizer came out, and it was.
I mean, I worked for a newspaper before, and like the way it works is, there's a mad dash before print or before you have to go live on the news or whatever, and you're scouring the AP and looking for something, and that's everyone grasps onto something that looks like might be interesting or newsworthy. None of these news organizations themselves really give a shit about it. They're just regurgitating something that they were told.
Yeah, I wonder if they have someone that specifically just sits there and looks at a story and says, "What's the most bullshit, controversial clickbait headline I can come up with?" I mean, I wonder if that's a specific job. It's just ridiculous, and yeah.
Are your children dripping?
Next at 11. Okay, so yeah, we're moving through this pretty quickly here. Jay, why don't you tell us a little bit about Massachusetts and SD 171? You said that there's a tax on e-liquid proposed right now in the state of
Yeah,
Massachusetts.
in Mass, and I'm only concerned about Mass because I live in Mass, and all my friends live in Mass, except for you guys. But no. So SD 171 was filed January 12th, I believe. And we're just hearing about it this week. Thank you to Dimitri for giving us the heads up as early as was feasible for us at this juncture. Right now, it's sitting in the Committee on Revenue in Massachusetts, which means they will likely pass it because revenue is good. But essentially, what SD 171 does is it gives a 40% wholesale tax on all e-liquids, just e-liquid products. As far as the analysis so far on it, it does not include a floor tax, so it's not like Pennsylvania in that respect. But there is some language in the bill that could be construed to mean floor tax in some respect. So we're going to have to look a little more deeply into that aspect of it. But it is we are looking at facing a possible 40% wholesale tax on e-liquid. And that would affect e-liquid wholesalers both within and outside the state. So if you're selling to a vendor inside Massachusetts, you're going to be responsible for collecting and paying that 40% wholesale tax. Now, the margins on e-liquid are pretty strong.
Yeah, but companies are going to pass that to the consumer.
A lot of companies are going to try to pass most of that on to the consumer. Absolutely, some might not. But regardless, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt the already fragile industry in Massachusetts. Just because having a small business in Massachusetts is hard enough because over-regulation, over-taxation. Both at the local and state levels. You add on this 40% wholesale tax, and certainly it's going to put a significant number of businesses out of business in Massachusetts.
So can you tell us where it's at in the process right now? Like, where is it at, and where do you think it's going to go?
Right now,
so what are you guys doing to fight it? I mean, what happened to MASPA's not around anymore, right? So what's going on?
MASPA dissolved. There is still some potential help from SFATA. We'll see where that goes. There does definitely seem to be kind of an aura of companionship, I guess, between former quote unquote enemies, in the advocacy front in Massachusetts. So that's promising. We'll see where that goes. There's certainly a lot of activity from former entities, former manufacturers, former vendors that previously didn't want to get involved in advocacy. Now they're scared shitless, so they're willing to jump on board.
So
we're actually
hold on, just pause for 1 second. When MASPA was around, and we through Vista helped get a lobbyist there. There was 6 or 8 shops that were paying the dues and trying to keep the lobbyists paid for, and no one else gave a shit. So now that there's something negative happening,
yes,
now everyone's interested. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, human nature. You're describing human nature,
right? I just want to voice it because other states need to learn from it.
You're absolutely right, and that's my point. I don't want to dwell on what happened with MASPA or with MASFATA. I don't want to dwell on it, but I do want to make people aware who are jumping on board now of what the failings were, so that we can hopefully head those failings off at the pass, before they become a problem in the future. So right now there is a nice chunk of activity. People are getting together. We're getting together actually on Sunday. Most of us are getting together on Sunday, and we're gonna work out next steps. Whether that's going right after a lobbyist or simply forming a cohesive message, a coherent message, between all the different entities involved, and just letting the bill sponsors know what this will do to the industry.
Let me ask you this, and I'm being serious. I'm not being a smartass here. Do you think that if the companies in Massachusetts had come together when MASPA was a thing and supported the lobbyists, that this things would have been turning out and playing out differently than they are now?
You know what? I think the bill it's still so early in the legislative session. I think I don't necessarily know that having the lobbyist on retainer during, the last 3 months or whatever would have necessarily made a huge difference. Really, it's the future that will tell.
So tough to say. Depends how good the lobbyist is.
It's really hard. It's really hard to say because there were times when we were telling the lobbyist about things that were coming. They weren't telling us. So, I mean, lobbyists are not infallible either.
No, they're not, but they do have better connections than...
They have much better connections, and certainly they may have seen this coming before it was actually filed. The bill was filed on, I believe, January 12th, and then on January 17th, it went into the Senate. We found out about it through Dimitri again, through trackbill.com on Tuesday morning. I think Dimitri pinged me on it. So, a couple of weeks, 1.5 or 2 weeks had gone by before we knew about it. I don't know enough about the legislative process, frankly, to know what could have been done prior. Certainly it's still very early in the process. We can still contact the bill's initial sponsor and see what the deal is here. And the other thing about this bill is I believe, just based on the language, that it was initially put forth as a cigar tax bill that was actually designed to reduce cigar taxes because they're currently paying 40% wholesale cigars in Massachusetts. So this bill actually reduces that by capping cigar taxes to 50% or 50 cents per cigar. So it's 40% of wholesale up to 50 cents per cigar. So they have they're trying to build a cap. So my assumption is that the revenue happy legislators in Mass said, well, we need to make up this revenue somewhere. So why don't we tax something else?
Right.
Hey, e-liquid. That's not being taxed.
Why
above
not?
And beyond
Pennsylvania
sales
did it.
tax.
North Carolina did it. Minnesota did it. Why not? California's doing it.
Right.
And that's exactly what the domino effect is going to be.
So that's what that's how I think it transposed. So, like I said, we're gonna try to fight it. There's a lot of very eager folks right now involved. We just have to hope that it doesn't happen the way that it did with MASFO, with people getting excited because there was an initial bill and then just kind of falling by the wayside because, it's too much work. I'm too busy. Too much money,
Yep.
This and that. So,
yeah. Matt, do you have any thoughts about that, or kind of the same?
No, I mean, I agree. It's a domino effect. The more states that do it, the more other states are gonna try. It's just an untapped resource. I hate the whole flat. Not that I'm for any tax, but I mean, obviously, it would make more sense to just tax the nicotine and then base it off of amount of nicotine or whatever, but and tax it 95% less than cigarettes, obviously, or 50 cents
right.
would be decent if you're gonna have to have a tax, but it's awful. You open the door for it and they just end up adding on to it and raising the tax eventually.
That's exactly it. There's already discussion in the new group about trying to find a compromise, and that's my argument, is that once they get the foothold in, it's the slow boiling frog.
Never compromise with them on taxes ever.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, I'm kind of with you, Matt. I think that sales tax ultimately is probably the most moral tax. I'm not a fan of income tax in any stretch. But when it comes to something as politically charged as a nicotine product in the current environment, I can't abide by it. I can't abide by any taxation on.
No, I'm not.
Not right now. Not right now. I mean, once the initial wave moves on and it's no longer a hot topic for the media and for politicians, then we could look at possibly tacking on a little extra tax because it's not a necessity in life, kind of thing. It's not like
Yeah, but we pay sales tax on it. I mean, again,
yes,
we'll talk
we
about the
pay,
whole
some states pay sales tax on it, sure. But I mean, down the line, it might be something I'd be willing to compromise on. But right now, no tax.
No
Can't
tax,
have it.
absolutely. This is not a sin product. This is a public health benefit product. And
Mm-hmm.
again, I think that's where you have the benefit of having a lobbyist fighting in your corner, is to get those one-on-one meetings with people in key positions in legislatures and educating them on exactly what it is they're about to do. So it's a shame that couldn't keep it there in Massachusetts, but hopefully this will open up some people's eyes and let them realize how important it is to be proactive in your states and to have a smoke-free association or something else in your state that's fighting for your rights. The business rights, I think consumers need to do their part as well, but they need to do it from the consumer angle. It's business. This is going to really hit businesses, so businesses need to be footing the brunt of the bill for the lobbyists, or the entire bill for the lobbyists, and making sure that they're proactive in their states. We do have a couple of comments that I wanted to go over real quick, and I see if I can find them again. Rob says, is it a common practice for state legislatures to try to sneak taxes and regulations through? Is this why you would really need a lobbyist to catch things? Absolutely. It happens every year in multiple states. Absolutely.
They purposefully will try to keep it on the DL sometimes, or slip it onto some other, bigger bill or whatever. As an amendment.
You have something that has nothing to do with vaping.
Sometimes a lobbyist will catch that. Sometimes they won't. But where a lobbyist can really benefit you is when a legislator actually does have the best of intentions, but they know, there's somebody who knows, something about, this particular subject. Yeah. I should reach out to them and see if they have any input on this. It might happen, not as often as we'd like, but that's certainly an instance where having a lobbyist in play will benefit you. Otherwise, your voice, you can bitch all you want on social media. Your legislators aren't listening to social media.
Right.
It's the education part is the biggest for sure.
You have to get into the back rooms, and even by the time if you're testifying at a hearing on a particular bill, oftentimes it's already too late at that point, because that's just a dog and pony show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What you really have to do is get into those backroom deals where people are actually discussing the language of the bill.
Long before they ever make it to committee meetings.
Right, long before that. And unfortunately, in prior instances, MASFO was able to do that. We were able to get into those backroom deals. Again, I talked about it last week, where a particular state rep who was the chair of the Public Health Committee looked me dead in the eye and said, we are not going to try to tax e-cigarettes. And she was one of the co-sponsors on SD 171.
Wow.
What people got to understand with lobbyists is, like, sometimes you're just paying for who that lobbyist is friends with and who they know. Mm-hmm. And who they can what's the word I'm looking for?
Persuade them to think a different way.
Persuade. Who they can persuade.
Right.
So, sometimes it's not like it's always going to work, but if they have those connections, it's.
Oh, and here's the kicker. I don't know if you guys are aware. It was kind of national news because it was such a big deal. But the Massachusetts legislature just voted in their own pay raise. I think it was a couple of weeks ago. You'll never guess what the average percentage increase was. 40%.
How many?
40%. 40%, 40%, 40%, 40%.
Like a sick joke.
Cool Vape in the chat is asking who the bill's sponsor is. It is Michael Moore. If you didn't need any more irony, the bill's sponsor's name is Michael Moore. He is in the 2nd District, Worcester. He is a state senator. So feel free to contact Mr. Michael Moore.
Definitely.
Be respectful. Be respectful.
Be respectful. If you're in Massachusetts, make sure you contact these bill sponsors. We'll post a link in the description. Hopefully, Jay can find me one that I can post with the bill text and information on who's sponsoring it and who's on board with it, so that we can try to. I guess from across the country, probably, especially if you're a manufacturer of e-liquid or products that sells into the state of Massachusetts. Well, this is specifically for e-liquid, so e-liquid manufacturers, or if you're located in the state of Massachusetts, make sure that you voice your objection respectfully to this, and see if there's anything you can do to help the vape shop you go to or the liquid manufacturer that you buy from in Massachusetts.
Now, I'm sure there will be a call to action from CASA on this bill. I'm sure if it's not already up, I had checked it early. I had checked earlier in the week, and it wasn't there. But I'm sure they'll be on it at some point. If you are a manufacturer or a vendor, retailer in Massachusetts, I encourage you to join the Mass Patriot Vape. Wait, hold on. I'll find the group here. Mass. Something about Patriots.
While Jay's looking for that, I'm just going to remind you now, if you're watching live, make sure you smash that like button, please. It helps us out a lot in the search results on YouTube, and also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And please share the replay link when we get it posted up on the Facebook page. Just search Facebook for VCC Live altogether, and you'll find this, and we'll add you in there.
So it's Mass Vaping Patriots. If you are a vendor or a manufacturer, and I believe as far as manufacturers, this is going to affect e-liquid manufacturers out of state as well. Right now, the group is not open to consumers, not yet. That may happen soon, but for right now, it's just the manufacturers and retailers that are looking to just get a cohesive message together. And try to fight this.
Rob in chat said something about a 90% wholesale tax somewhere, and I remember hearing that too, 90 or 95 something. There was something in like the CASA group or something recently. Do you guys remember what that was about?
I don't remember which state it was from, but I do remember seeing it. Yes, there's so many, like I don't know, probably 20 or 30.
It's something. Yeah,
states.
It's nuts.
But yeah. It's going to keep getting more and more ridiculous. And again, if you're watching for the first time or if you haven't watched any of our previous episodes, that's why we always say we have to continue working on changing the predicate date. That's our priority at the federal level. And then secondly, getting federal legislation to reclassify vapor products away from tobacco products. As long as the FDA and the federal government are setting the tone for the states, they're going to continue to try to take advantage of vapors and the industry. Even though we're out here trying to get smokers off combustible tobacco, keep people from dying early deaths, and save the government ultimately lots of money in healthcare costs, they're still trying to fuck us from every angle. So, yeah.
That's my favorite angle.
Every angle. Mitch asked earlier, Kevin Skipper, are you on any other vaping networks besides this one? No, I'm not. Just this one. I wouldn't even say we're a vaping network. We're just a show. We're just some guys trying to educate people. But no, I'm not. Maybe I look like somebody else on another show. I'm not sure.
Well, I think he's probably you know how there's like other vaping networks or whatever they call them that have the shows.
Yeah. No.
You know, that aren't on YouTube. What are those called again?
Vaping networks.
Yeah, but there's what were the names of those? I forget.
Oh, like Vape TV and VPN and IDQ and all those. Quest was the one that I helped form way back in the day.
Yeah, no, I'm not a part
Jay,
of it.
please type the bill in chat.
That I do, and we do it once a week on Thursdays at 8. So yeah, make sure you continue to stop by. We appreciate you watching, Mitch. Let's see. I'm just trying to catch up on any other comments. Arizona. I think it was Arizona, which I found ironic about Arizona with this huge tax, 95% of wholesale tax in Arizona. They were they were previously within the last couple of years I wouldn't say pro-vaping, but they weren't anti-vaping, and Mount Baker Vapor actually moved their whole operation from Washington State down to Arizona.
Yeah.
A couple other companies I know have moved over to Arizona, and then Arizona now is thanking them by doing, proposing something like this. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I'm not sure like what their state, it's a fairly red state. I don't know who controls their House and Senate though.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it's a fairly Republican state as well.
Yeah, if it's usually a Democrat that proposes those, and unless you're like in Massachusetts or something like where Jay is at, they can propose that shit all they want, but it just never goes through.
Mm-hmm. And that a lot of we're getting some help from Paul Beasley, who's the head of the New Hampshire Smoke-Free Association, and it's just a completely different animal up in New Hampshire. Much the same way, like they propose shit all day long, but it's extremely difficult to get anything passed, even if it's a revenue generator. It's very difficult to get anything passed there, just because of the way that the government is set up there. In Massachusetts, it's different. If they want to fast track something, they'll go nuts. They'll pass shit overnight. Like on a Friday night, like this pay raise that they gave themselves. Absolutely slimy. Absolutely slimy.
All right, well, if there's no other comments in chat about it, we're going to move on. We only have one more thing to talk about, so again, might wrap up a few minutes early. Just depends on how long we talk about this next one. So I'm going to, again, flop over to the full screen button here. This is something that Jay brought to our attention just before we went live. Is it showing the full screen, guys? Hopefully.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. So if you go to ProVape.com, if you don't know who ProVape is, they've been around for quite a while. They make the ProVary devices, as you can see in these pictures here. And their website says ProVape is now closed. Due to upcoming FDA regulations and restrictions, we have made the decision to cease production and close operations. We want to send out a huge thank you to all of our customers, dealers, and vendors around the world for your support, for sharing your stories and photos with us over the years. This has really been an amazing experience, and we were privileged to have you as our customer. It's been humbling to hear all the success stories, and we are truly blessed to be a part of your lives. Thank you. So this is, I mean, kind of shocking, I guess, in a way. I mean, what do you guys think? I had a ProVary PP. I thought it was a good device.
I think a
do you
lot.
do you think it's actual, or do you think maybe someone hacked it?
I believe it.
I believe it too, but what do you, Jay?
I have so many thoughts on this. Well, I mean, I guess first of all, I'd like to have it confirmed. I don't know whether they were hacked, whether they're trying to make a statement. Those are the first things that I want to find out. If it is true, I do think it's a sad day for vaping, because they were such pioneers in the very early times of regulated vaping. I mean, they were the first bulletproof regulated mod, period. Yes, they were slow to adapt and adjust as the market changed over the last couple of years. But I still hold a very soft spot in my heart for those guys, for what they did. They created such a great infrastructure as far as manufacturing and QC. They built essentially everything from the ground up in the U.S., which says a lot.
Let me just interject there really quickly here. I know some shops that carried ProVary devices, and I don't think that the profit margin or whatever, the return on investment.
Let me talk on the shot. Let me have that one.
Okay.
When Jay gets.
Well, I was just going to say that I don't think that it's all FDA regulations like they're claiming on their website. That's my point, and we can clarify.
I agree. I absolutely agree. But Matt, go ahead. Go ahead.
What do you think about that, Matt?
If you guys remember, they also you're absolutely right. There's not a big margin on their devices, but they also pissed off a lot of retailers. What was it, like 6 months to a year ago now, where they were like emailing, sending out mass emails to customers trying to get them to buy directly from them. And the way they worded their emails was just really pissed off some retailers. And I know a lot of people actually stopped carrying their products because of that. And I just think that they didn't evolve. And the mid-range vape gear has kind of gone away. It's like everything's in China now. China's quality has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. And then you have a high-end market that's made in the States and some others. But it's that whole middle, even in like RDAs and things like that. I mean, that whole mid-range stuff, it's not really, it's kind of non-existent now. Most of the manufacturing has gone to China. And on top of that, their tech was kind of lacking behind. But I still have my ProVaries. I still love them. And there's no doubt they were groundbreaking. They just kind of got left in the dust, I think.
Yeah, I think China had a huge part to play in it. I think as China's quality control increased and their products got better, but they were still selling for about the same thing, and shops could say buy something wholesale for $30 or $40 and sell it for $70 to $100. There, as a business owner, you're going to pick something. I mean, I think before ProVape could make the argument we're American made and American source parts. Almost all of the parts were American source parts. But there just wasn't enough margin there, I don't think, for the wholesalers to continue when they had a huge competition from China. So
the problem is that I was their market, and I am probably the last demographic you want to market to. Somebody who's been vaping for 6 or 7 years, still mouth to lungs, but likes higher end, but not necessarily ridiculously priced equipment. And that market got smaller and smaller and smaller as the years went on. They never tried to capitalize on the true high end vapor market. And if they in fact are closing shop, yes, I do believe that it's entirely their own fault for not just what you said, Matt, but for what I said, which is that they just didn't know how to grow up.
Yeah.
They didn't know how to grow and diversify their product portfolio. They just decided to sit on their laurels and say we were the first, therefore we're the best. In a highly unregulated industry, that's not good enough.
Yeah.
You have to innovate, and you have to know why you're innovating. Coming out with a 60-watt mod a year after there are 100-watt mods doesn't make much sense.
And there's issues like I've over the last couple of years gotten into a lot of different hobbies. I mean, I've gotten into knives and flashlights and freaking, like I told you, I got into spinners recently. And you see the same stuff going on in all of these markets.
Yeah.
Just recently in the knife world, Chinese vendors have all of a sudden really stepped up their game, and there's some really, really nice knives coming out of China. Which wasn't like that for years and years and years. And it does scare off those same, U.S. vendors. The mid-level ones are the ones that are getting, a little bit nervous. And so spinners too, just now we're starting to see some that are made in, or that are designed in the States, but they're outsourcing to China. And it's just like, you got to find, as an American company, you got to find a way to stay relevant, but to offer something, not just like, I've learned, and it's sad, but you can't just sit on the whole Made in America thing. Like that's
Right.
not all you can do.
What you need to do, what's great about Made in America, aside from the whole nationalistic pride bullshit, what's great about Made in America is innovation. We have always been excellent innovators. If you stop innovating, you're gonna fall off.
You got to offer more. You got to the customer service is a big part of it too.
Yes,
absolutely. A lot of
Absolutely.
things to make it worthwhile.
But that's something that ProVape has always done well, is their customer service.
Yeah, they did do customer service.
As far as the consumer, but the way that they screwed their retailers, what was it, two or 3 years ago, it's hard to come back from something like that. You can't have that business model and treat your retail consumer, your wholesale consumers that way, and expect to be in that market.
And back in the day, like that was, if you wanted a good solid mod and you just wanted to buy one mod that lasted you forever, there was ProVape, and you could go, if you worked in a vape shop, it was easy to sell that. You could say, well, we got these cheaper ones, they don't have a warranty, they're this, that, and they're kind of junky, or you got this ProVape that'll last you forever. But now it's like they just don't. They're not the only company that has that anymore, and they've got more competition.
Well, I mean, the only ProVape I ever had was the ProVape P3, and it was fantastic for a couple months. But I did start noticing issues with battery life. It was terrible, especially compared to some of the Chinese mods.
There were software issues. There were software issues with the P3, definitely.
Yeah, so I don't know. I can't speak to any other products that they made, but I don't think for the price that they were asking, they were worth it, in my opinion. But that's just my opinion. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to kick anyone while they're down. No, I'm just telling you the truth about how my experience was.
I admitted that when I bought the P3. When I first bought the P3, I think it was probably the first month or two that they were out. I said, yes, it's a wonderful device. Is it worth, I think they were charging $200 or so for it. Is it worth $200? No, it's not. It's not. Would I buy it again? I don't know, maybe. But is it worth $200? Not based on what else is on the market.
Well, yeah, you used to be able to take a ProVape and put it next to a Chinese mod and say, I know why this thing's $150.
Right.
Now you can't do that as much with the mods we have now. I mean, this is just about as good a quality,
Well, I'm glad I got my ProVape P3, because now it'll be a collectible in 50 years.
Yeah, I'm never going to get rid of mine. Like, mine are very sentimental to me, like that and the K-Fun with the little ProVape rings, remember?
Yep.
Like, you use them.
I've got them.
Too. I mean, I'll never get rid of that.
I probably have 10 ProVape products across the entire line. Version 1 all the way up to 2.5 and the 3, and then a couple of radiuses. I just have a ton of ProVape products. And now I won't be able to send them in for repair. Actually, they did put a link up. They said they would honor repairs. So if I want to, I should probably send everything in right now and just say, hey, clean everything up. Clean everything up.
Mooch is in the chat with us. How you doing, Mooch? Thanks for joining us again tonight. He makes a good point here. He says, drop the patent expenses, use them for new product development, stay ahead of China, and don't fight them. Absolutely right. That's absolutely
I agree.
It's
in the
hard
vape world
work.
especially, there were too many American companies that were just focused on China, and they were too obsessed with it. And there was, you just got to, just try to stay ahead at all times.
Stay ahead of the curve, and if there's nothing that's, they're going to copy your shit anyway. Chinese companies are going to get your stuff and reverse engineer it and make it for cheaper.
Right.
So you have to be continually putting out products and looking a year or two in the future, I think, and just staying ahead of them before they can.
Well, the problem is August 8th. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, August 8th didn't creep up on us. We knew about it for quite some time. I think you
right,
but
you can't do what you're saying. You're not allowed to do what you're saying.
As an American company right now, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, you can't do it. And maybe that's part of the equation as to why they closed the doors. Yeah.
That's a good point. I guess I forget about that because we still see stuff coming from China. But you're absolutely right. It also could have been that they just couldn't come out with any new products. The products they had were dying.
Right. And they were too well known to kind of fly under the radar, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, like some other American companies that
if you're
sure
a small American or high-end company or something, you can, maybe you make, an atomizer and make 200 at a time or something. Yeah, exactly. You could fly under the radar. But ProVape was pretty big. I remember Phil Bissardo's videos.
Yeah, they did tours of the facility and stuff. It was awesome.
I mean, it was a pretty big operation for vaping.
And that's what upsets me, because I saw some posts earlier tonight about people like bitching. Well, I'm glad they're fucking out of business because they were overcharging for their product and this and that. You can't say that if you look at their operation and realize that they were operating in that capacity in the United States.
Yeah.
Right.
If you see their operation, they were not like gouging people for their product. They were not doing it. Were they overcharging their vendors? I don't think they should. I don't think they should have been.
People just don't get
trying to do that model. I don't think they should have even tried to go to retail shops. I think they should have just kept with the online thing.
I mean, this knife right here is $170 because it's made in the States. Like China would be $20.
I just bought. What was it, last week? I bought a double-edged razor, a safety razor, $185.
Good
God.
Yeah.
Some of those
made in the USA, crazy. Above the tie, slant S1, $185 for that thing.
Super cool though. But yeah,
it's so gorgeous. I'll probably never shave with it. I'll just keep it in a box. But
wow.
But it's so gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
All right, we're going to wrap up. We have a few minutes left here. We have someone watching right now. Emerald Phoenix says, hey, Kevin, could you give a shout out for my local brick and mortar in Colorado, Springs Oya Vape? Is that how you say it? I hope so.
Oh, yeah.
Springs Oya Vape. So hopefully that's correct. So yeah, you're shouted out. Thank you for joining and watching, and hopefully you play this at your shop in the store for people to get some education when they come in, smokers and vapors. So yeah, any closing thoughts, Jay? What you doing this? What's going on? Anything coming up this week?
On Sunday, like I said, we're gonna have a meet to try to get the Massachusetts vendors together and figure out what the hell we're gonna do about SD 171. I might not be able to attend because it's my mother's birthday.
So who should people contact if they're a manufacturer or in the industry in Massachusetts? Who should they contact?
Definitely, if you're a vendor or a manufacturer, go to the, and quote me on this, Mass Vaping Patriots group on Facebook. Mass Vaping Patriots. It is a closed group as of now, so you can't see who's in it, who's posting. or maybe you can see who's in it. I don't know. But as of right now, it's just for vendors and manufacturers. But we'll be happy to bring you on board and get you all the details on what's going on Sunday. After that, who knows what's going to happen. But that's my next week. Yeah.
All right, Matt, what are you up to?
Just videos, man. Also, YouTube just launched a new mobile streaming option, so I might try that out. And it makes it really easy. Like they only will let you do it's only for channels with 10,000 subs and above right now, apparently. But like you update the app and you can just stream right from the app, and you're kind of like Facebook Live does. So I might try that out this weekend or next week. Maybe do that like once a week because I get so many questions on different videos and stuff. Like
it's a really cool idea.
Doing like little Q&A here and there. Kind of plan it out ahead of time. Let people on social media know it's coming. Start doing that here and there.
Really cool idea. I'm going to Saturday. I think Moon Mountain's having their 3-year shop opening party. So they've had a shop in Brandon, Florida for 3 years. So I'm going to go hang out there for a couple hours in the evening. So if you're in the area, Tampa Bay area, make sure you stop by and check that out. JT in chat says, why did the date get changed for VCC Tampa? I've talked about it a couple times, but anyway, the gist of it is there were too many big events going on in March. And, it's been tough getting vendors and sponsors to sign up for the events as it is for the last 6 months, especially with the plethora of events popped up over the last year and a half. But, there were just too many events, so we decided to move it to June. And I didn't see anything else going on in June. Doesn't mean other things won't pop up, because I'm sure that they will. But we're going to do it in June 24th and 25th at the Florida State Fairgrounds. So if you're watching and you want to come to Tampa that weekend, if you have a business, make sure you sign up. And everything's available. You can email me, admin@vapingcc.com. Everything's online. I'll get the information over to you. And also, I'm going to give another shout out too for Breathe Magazine, BRETH Magazine. All of us are contributors, including Nick, who's not here with us tonight. But we have a whole host of other contributors, and we're going to have a great first issue coming out at the end of April for May, June. So if you are interested, we're doing right now an early bird advertising special. If you sign up this month, the month of February, the sooner the better, for ad placement opportunities, you're going to get 25% off of any of the ad spaces. So make sure you email me for that as well, brethmagazine@gmail.com. I think that's all we have for tonight, guys. So we appreciate you tuning in and watching. If you haven't already hit that like button, please make sure you do it. And also, please make sure that you share the link once we get it up on the VCC Live Facebook page. We appreciate you guys tuning in and watching. Hopefully you share this and we'll get some information out to all the people who want information on smoking and vaping and industry and consumers. And appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember,
Good night.
You don't have to do everything. You do have to do something. Get involved.